Yo, what is going on, guys? SMH Super Mario Hoops back with some more hoops, and today we're talking about the top 50 list in NBA history with a special player by the name of Earvin Magic Johnson on the topic today. Now, where does he rank on my all-time list? Well, as of today, I currently have Magic Johnson ranked at number 6 all-time. But before we hop into this video, gonna need you guys to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I've been pumping out like 50 videos for you guys, so hopefully you do appreciate it, and hopefully if you haven't subbed by now, that you're subbed by the time this top 50 list is all completed. But without further ado, let's hop into Magic Johnson. So he was a 12-time NBA All-Star every year from 1980 until 1992, except the 1981 season where he did have some injuries. He was a 9-time All-NBA First Team member from 1983 to 1991, and he was All-NBA Second Team once in 1982. In fact, he was a 3-time MVP in 1987, 1989, and 1990, and in terms of just leading the league in stats, a 4-time assist leader and a 2-time steal leader. He led the league in assists in 83, 84, 86, and 87, and he led the league in steals in 1981 and 1982. He's a 5-time NBA champion in 1980, 1982, 1985, 1987, and 1988, and a 3-time Finals MVP in 1980, 1982, and 1987. Now, for MVP shares, he received votes 12 different seasons, 9 where he was a top 3 finisher, and the crazy stat behind this is that he did this every year from 1982 to 1991, a 2-time runner-up in 1985 and 1991, and a 3-time winner in 1987, 1989, and 1990. In terms of years, he was very close. Bird and Jordan at 85 and 91 respectively put up some of the greatest seasons of all time, so it's hard to argue against that. But again, the 3 MVPs, and most impressively, the 9 straight years being top 3 in MVP, that's essentially a decade's worth without any year off of being one of the top 3 players in the league. And it's also a feat that has never been accomplished by any other player besides Magic Johnson in NBA history. But now let's look at how he fares with some all-time stat rankings. He leads NBA history with 11.2 assists per game. His 10,141 assists puts him 6th all-time. 1.9 steals per game is good for 19th all-time. 1,724 steals puts him 22nd all-time. 61% true shooting is 15th in NBA history, just like his 24.1 PER. 155.8 win shares puts him 21st all-time. 110.6 offensive win shares puts him 19th all-time. A 0.225 win share per 48 rating is 9th all-time. 7.5 BPM puts him 3rd in NBA history. A 5.9 offensive BPM puts him 6th all-time. An 80 VORP puts him at 13th in NBA history, and a 120.8 offensive rating puts him 6th in NBA history as well. But now let's move on to Magic Johnson in the playoffs. Now, he averaged 20 points per game in 16 of 40 playoff series, 25 points per game in 4 series, and 30 points per game in 1. He also averaged 10 rebounds per game in 8 different series. And in terms of assists, he averaged 10 assists per game in 33 of 40 playoff series and 15 assists per game in 4 different series. Now, in his rookie year, the Lakers compiled a 60-22 record in the regular season and reached the 1980 NBA Finals, where they would face Philadelphia, who were led by forward Dr. J. The Lakers took a 3-2 series lead, and then Kareem, who was averaging 33 points a game in this series, sprained his ankle in Game 5 and could not play in Game 6. As a result, the chief decision was to start the 6'9" point guard, Magic Johnson, at center in Game 6, and he did not disappoint. Johnson recorded 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals on 61% from the field in a 16-point win, and he played guard, forward, and center all at different times in this game. Johnson then became the only rookie to win the NBA Finals MVP award, and his clutch performance is still regarded as one of the best in NBA history. For the series, he averaged 21.5 points per game, 11 rebounds, just under 9 assists, 57% from the field, and 87.5% from the free throw line. Now, in 1981, like I said, he dealt with some minor injuries, and it kind of hurt him all throughout the year. As a result, they lost to Moses Malone and the Rockets in the playoffs. But in 1982, they responded with a more healthy Magic and once again faced off Dr. J's 76ers. And the Lakers won the second title in Magic's 3rd season and again was named the Finals MVP, averaging 16 points per game, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 2.5 steals per game on 53.3% from the field. Over the next few years, as expected, the Lakers were dominant again. They made the finals in 1983 and 1984, but they fell short in both. Magic was a bit inefficient in 1983 and was pretty solid in 1984, but he still wasn't better than Moses Malone or Larry Bird in these two series. But in the 1985 NBA Finals, the Lakers finally got revenge on Boston, and Magic had arguably his best playmaking finals of his career. However, it was Kareem that took home the Finals MVP, which probably wouldn't have even been possible without Magic. However, it would take until 1987 in the NBA Finals when Magic could win his third and last Finals MVP. This is the same year he was the regular season MVP, and in this series, he averaged 26 points per game, 13 assists, 8 rebounds, 2.3 steals per game, on 54% from the field, 59% true shooting, and a plus 21 net rating to add to it. And although he wasn't the Finals MVP over James Worthy in 1988, Magic was still extremely good, averaging 21 points per game, 13 assists, 5.7 rebounds per game, 2 steals, 55% from the field, and an insane 67.6% true shooting, and a plus 26 net rating, which is impressive since Detroit actually outscored them by about 3 points per game through this series, and the Lakers went to a Game 7 where they only won by 3 points. Now, Worthy had one of the greatest Game 7s, if not the greatest Game 7 of NBA history that night, but Magic was still extremely efficient and effective in the crunch time of this game as well to give him his 5th and final ring. However, in the next year when they met the bad boys in the finals, they would get swept. Of course, Magic went down in Game 2 with a hamstring injury and was limited most of the series, and it kind of killed the Lakers' chances. James Worthy played well, but it was clear that Kareem was near the end of his career. He was nowhere near the player he used to be, and ultimately in the offseason he retired. Another fun fact though from this playoff run is that Magic in the first and third rounds actually averaged 50-40-90 shooting splits for the only 2 playoff series of his career. But the next year in 1990, when they lost to allow an inexperienced Portland Trail Blazers team led by Clyde Drexler and Terry Porter to make the NBA Finals in their place, people started to question whether Kareem's locker room presence was necessary to get them over that hump. And in 1991, Magic kind of shut down those narratives, averaging 20 points per game and 12 assists per game in all 3 conference playoff series, as well as a triple-double average in the second round matchup against the Run TMC Warriors. And in the NBA Finals, Magic led his team to a 1-0 series lead, but as we know, a man by the name of Michael Jordan was on the other side of that series. And I think we all know how every Finals ends with him as the opponent. The Bulls won the series in 5. However, James Worthy did miss Game 5 of the series, which could have extended the series and maybe at least forced a Game 6. However, Magic's impact on a young Vlade Divac in his first final series was extremely impressive. I mean, Kareem hadn't even played that well alongside Magic in the finals since 1985, and that was when Kareem was the Finals MVP. So it's an underrated tale about how Magic simply was the engine of these Showtime Lakers. And then in the offseason was when he discovered he had HIV and was forced into retirement, and the Lakers were still a playoff team the next year, but they dropped 15 games in the standings, and they pretty much only made the playoffs because they had James Worthy. But after that season, they were under 500 for the next several years. And then Magic made a comeback in 1996, and he wasn't the same player as before, but he is kind of underrated. In fact, they actually had him more as a power forward on that team because he simply wasn't nearly as in shape as he was before. But when discussing Magic Johnson, I would say he is now underrated. It's not by everyone, but mainly behind Steph Curry fans in general. I mean, most of them try to diminish Magic and act like he isn't the greatest point guard of all time. And you guys already know who splits the means between them at 2. But my point is that Magic Johnson has to be the greatest point guard ever, and has to be at the very least in the middle of a top 10 list. I mean, like 7 to 8 at the minimum. He definitely is the most accomplished point guard of all time, and he's arguably the greatest passer of all time. I mean, statistically, he is proven to be that. I think from an eye test, I personally prefer Steve Nash, but Magic should still be in everyone's top 3 passers in NBA history. He's also become kind of underrated defensively. I mean, he wasn't all defensive at all in his career, and he did kind of get blown by a little bit by some quicker guards like Mookie Blaylock and Sherman Douglas, but his size posed threats to several players, and he had that defensive versatility. I mean, he's one of the strongest point guards ever, and as a result, if he would match up in a post-up situation with perimeter players like Michael Jordan or Alex English or Dennis Johnson, it would make them work so much harder for a successful shot than most of the players that defended them. But even on the offensive end, to play any position when his name was called to do so. I mean, we discussed Oscar Robertson in this video, and even Magic credited Oscar for how difficult it was to pull that stuff off. Yet ever since then, Magic is probably the only player you could say has been able to replicate that same level of greatness. And both of them having that versatility to allow for players to play kind of out of position, not based on size. I mean, it makes up a large part of the game even today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Magic Johnson. I think lately he's been getting a little bit too much slack on his name, and it kind of needs to stop. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.